Hi, my name is Jacob, and I'm here to tell you about the story how God saved me.
So Jacob, what was your life like before you came to Christ?
So, starting from beforehand, I used to be a troubled kid. Starting from like early ages, kindergarten and on. I was troubled for a long period of time. I got into a lot of fights. I didn't really pay attention too much. I was an average student, but just had a little bit of problems. I wasn't very gentle. I didn't grow up in a nice neighborhood. And it really just kind of impacts you, right? As you grow up in a neighborhood that is rough. I never really, back in that time, I never really had any gang affiliations because I was so little. I didn't have any of those problems. I had a pretty okay family. My family has its problems, full of drug addicts and stuff like that. But regardless, it's still okay. Then later on, I moved to another area by Bellamy. That's a place in Toronto. And I went to a nice school. That was where stuff started changing for me a little bit. I wasn't really troubled. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. But I was just a regular kid that really didn't have any thoughts about death or the afterlife or like Christ. Or just God in general. I didn't grow up in a religious family. They didn't care about God. They didn't really want anything with God. My mom thought about Christ every now and then, but it was nothing over the top. And then later on, I moved to another place. I moved to a place called by Victoria Park. It's another place in Toronto. And I went to a school called Maryville, and I was still the same. Didn't really do anything that revolved around God. I was still a kid that didn't really pay attention. I fooled around in school, got in trouble. But my grades were still average. But I still didn't have any desire for Christ. I didn't know anything about God. I just wasn't seeking God, right? And then I ended up meeting someone who brought me to Parkway. That's the church that I currently attend. I ended up meeting someone who brought me to their youth program. And I started picking up more and more things about God. I ended up acting in one of their Charlie Brown Christmas plays. And then that's what really got me settled into the youth group. So then later on from that time, I probably would have been about 12, 13. I grew up throughout the youth program, so I went to their junior high program. I went to one of their other programs for the younger kids, and then I went to their Friday night programs. Still during that time, I wasn't taking God seriously. It was just kind of more for community and company. Still, I would sometimes want to know more about God, but it would still like bore me. I didn't understand His glory, so I was still one of those kids that fooled around. I talked a lot during Bible study, and I just wasn't focused on the right things. And then I went into high school. High school was just full of distractions and bad things. Once again, the cycle didn't change. I didn't really focus so much. I ended up failing math my first year and just wasn't too focused on school every now and then. I would skip class every now and then, and I just wasn't focused on the right things. My grade 9 year was one of my more like introduction years into my walk with God. But I still wasn't proper. I started getting in trouble with people that were bad. I would hang out with people that I shouldn't have hung around. And it was just leading me down the wrong path. I started smoking and drinking and just a bunch of things like that really hurt your spirit. And I was filling myself with that. I was filling my mind, but then I was still attending church as if I was a Christian. So now fast forward on to grade 10, it was roughly the same thing. Except then I went and I started working at a church, the same church, Parkway. I started working at their camp program. The camp it was full of youth that were kind of just like me. And then I met a brother named Isaiah. He broke down the gospel to me, told me what it was, and then the rest is history. I became a Christian, I went through some stages of lukewarmness and running away from brothers, and trying to take Christ seriously but not being able to. And then one day I just said I need to either be for Christ or not for Christ, and I'm still currently on my path now. So that's the story of how God saved me. Was He revealed to me the glory of salvation in the gospel at church camp. Alright, take it easy.